What is up, brothers and sisters? Welcome to the Mitch Gray Show. Thank you for taking time to listen. I hope you are well. On today's show, we have Mr. Ken Attard. Ken is a mindset consultant. He focuses on entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs build a mindset that will lead you to success and a great life. So, Ken, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mitch. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I always say this. There's a part of me that wishes people could eavesdrop in our pre-show conversation, and there's a part of me that doesn't. But we just had a great conversation. I'm looking forward to the show. So, Ken, I like to start out with a big question. It kind of gives us guidance on the show and lets us go where we need to go. So, you're a mindset consultant. You hear the word mindset thrown around, positive mindset, positive energy, et cetera, et cetera. But what does mindset mean to you?
Oh, wow. What a great question, Mitch. What does mindset mean to me? Oh, there's so many components that really come into it. What comes to the forefront for me is this, is the way you think. And I think this is really, really essential. And when I say this, I mean this in a way that over the years, I've come to realize, so whether an entrepreneur or not, the majority of people really do not realize that they actually have a process that goes on with their thinking. And the amazing part about this is that your thinking, whether you like it or not, but the way you are thinking is having a direct result, or if you want to call it the byproduct of your thinking, are the results and the experiences that you're having in your life. And when I first started, dabbling in personal development, probably a good 17, 18 years ago now, that was one of the things that blew me away. When I started to, read some books and I started to listen to speakers and I said, how come no one teaches this stuff in school?
Yes.
And I was like, you mean the way I think is actually going to affect the results and the experiences that I have in my life? And to me, this is a core part of mindset and understanding the process. And when someone can actually really start to understand the process, they can actually start to create their life. They can actually start to create their reality. They can actually start to have an influence on the results and the experiences that they're having in their life. And to me, this is where the core of mindset is to me.
It's very much like that saying, you create your world long before you actually see it. So through that thought, through that mindset, you're really creating your world before it even manifests.
Absolutely.
And you've identified talking about this process and digging into that, but even for someone that doesn't understand that process is taking place, they are still, through thought and mindset, creating the world they see. They're teaching people how to treat them. They're accepting opportunities or denying opportunities long before they happen. And yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is this, like you said, you're doing it whether you're aware of it or not, you're doing it. And this is what's so essential. And this is why, one of the core, again, I have something I call the ARC method that I use. And the first part of that ARC method, which is the first pillar, there's 5 pillars, but the first pillar is awareness.
Yes.
Because ultimately, people just don't know.
Right.
And what you don't know, you don't know. It's not your fault. You just don't know.
Right.
And like you said, whether you know or not, whether you are aware or not, you are having an effect. Now, the amazing thing is when you start to become aware, and I'd like to emphasize on this as well, that it's not rocket science. I am not a rocket scientist.
Wait a second. You didn't go to school for 14 years to learn this? Hold on now.
I learned none of this in school. That's the amazing part. I wish I learned it that early. I really, and that's why, I think you mentioned to me that you get involved with schools and stuff like that, Mitch. And, I think it's amazing when I have the opportunity to talk to younger children, to students, and show them that, school is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. Like, school is wonderful, and there's a lot to learn. Yet, it's, when we're in school, we think that our life really depends on how well we do in school.
Right. Right.
As we get older, and this is what I like to explain when I have the opportunity to students. If I have a huge whiteboard in front of me, and I say to them, listen, right now I understand that your schooling and whatever exams or tests you might be doing, whatever might seem to be all and end all right now for your life and where you're headed. And they are, let's say, stepping stones potentially.
There's a value there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I looked at if this whiteboard in front of me was your life, when you look back 10, 15 years down the road, I can guarantee you that these exams, tests, whatever, they're going to be somewhere way down in the bottom corner, in that sense. And this is what's so significant, is that when you do become aware of how you are thinking. So if you understand, so very simply put, if you understand that the way you think creates an emotion, and that emotion, depending on whether or not that emotion is a good feeling emotion or a bad feeling emotion, that is going to affect the actions and the behaviors that you're going to move forward with.
Yes.
And then ultimately, those actions and those behaviors that you're going to move forward with are going to create the results and the experiences that you're having in your life. In a nutshell, that's simply it. So if there essentially is a result or an experience that you're having that you don't like, that you're not happy with, you need to look at yourself. And again, this is another challenge with a lot of people, because so many people will look externally for something to blame, potentially something that happened in their life 15 years ago, something that happened with their boss, something happened with their cousin, something that happened with the father, something that happened with the mother, a situation that happened. You potentially, and it's very easy to look outward and blame something or some circumstance. Sometimes we want to look at the economy and blame the economy. We want to blame the government. We want to blame whatever it is. Very easy to look outward and blame. But one of the foundational things that people need to understand is that before you go externally, stop and go internally and say, okay, what thoughts have I actually been thinking? Now, I understand some of those thoughts you're not even going to be aware of. They're going to be some unconscious thoughts, some unconscious programs that you've learned over the years, because when we were young, we were learning, we were being installed basically with certain programs.
Yes, which we had no control over.
Which you had no control over at that point in time. And for the most part, those programs came from parents, from grandparents, from our teachers, from the people around us. And we had, for quite some time, we had no control. Like you said, I mean, from birth to 7, we really got installed with a lot of programs. Now, the intentions of those people, most of the time, were good intentions. Most of the time, parents have great intentions with their children, most of the time. But if you always heard that it was really difficult for you, it's very difficult for you to earn your money. You have to work really hard to earn your money. Money doesn't grow on trees. These are typical, I ask, clients, and I'll ask them, I say, do you think it's really hard to earn your money? And for the most part, most will automatically nod. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're just telling me that that's just a belief.
Right.
And then when I ask you and I say to you, but do you know anybody or know of anybody who potentially earns a lot of money but doesn't work hard? And they're like, yeah, I know someone. I go, so why can't that be you? So essentially, it's just a belief. It's just a program that runs. Now, when you start to become aware, and this is the great part, when you start to become aware and you go, okay, so what potentially, thoughts do I have going? And this is where it's great to get an assistant from, whether it's a coach, whether it's a consultant, or who it may be. They can start to help you to start to become aware of some of these limiting beliefs.
Right.
Because essentially, what's a belief? I mean, a belief is simply a thought
Yes.
that you've thought over and over and
Mhm.
over and over and over, or heard it over and over and over. And that's why, you have people like parents, you have teachers are in such a powerful
Yes.
position
Yes.
with their students,
Yes.
even simply the way they're showing up.
Yes. Right.
Right. I've had the
Right.
opportunity. Yeah. Because
Right.
it's amazing, because think about this. So, I had an opportunity once to talk to teachers, and I actually said to them, I said, how do you show up? So when your student is perceiving you, what is the message that you are actually getting across to the
Mm,
student? Are you
mm.
getting the message across to the student that, listen, if you get a job similar to mine, consider yourself lucky?
Mhm.
Or are you conveying the message, listen, you can achieve anything you want. You
Mhm.
could be the next president. You could be the next prime minister. You could be the next
Mhm.
great inventor. Whatever, you can achieve anything you want. Is that the message you're conveying to them? How do you show up in the classroom? Because
Right.
essentially, a teacher is in a very powerful position, just as an entrepreneur is. And it's one
Mhm.
of the reasons I chose to work with entrepreneurs, is because they're leader. There are leaders. There are leaders in business. There are
Yes.
future leaders, and they have the potential, if they change the way they think, so that they can have a business life, an entrepreneurship that
Mhm.
is flowing, that is inspiring, that
Mhm.
is fun, that you
Right.
can laugh, that they
Right.
can enjoy what they're doing. It's not a
Yeah.
continuous struggle. It's not continuous suffering. If they can do that, then they can teach their people.
Yes. Yes.
And now they're creating a culture within the business. And now this is having an effect with all those people when they go home to their families, when they go
Mhm.
and to their children. And now it's just having this wave effect. All right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I chose to work with entrepreneurs, because I truly believe that there's a lot of leadership there. And I really want to debunk and shatter
Mhm.
that belief that an entrepreneur's life needs to be a continuous struggle. It needs to be suffering. It needs to
Yeah.
be, it needs to be sacrifices all the time.
Right. Right.
You need to be spending all your time in your business. It doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
Those are just, some of the beliefs that you probably grew up with, because for the most part, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the entrepreneur world, it doesn't matter what type of event you're attending, or what type of books you read, but we hear about the fact that you need to be doing and
Mhm.
taking action
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
the time. Doom, doom, do. You got to keep
Mhm.
going, going, going. And if you're not, hey, someone else is catching up with you and going
Right.
past you,
Right. Yep.
because there's not enough. There's not enough for everybody. Someone's taking a piece of that proverbial pie that
Right.
you're not going to get. Whereas when you come from an abundant mindset, and this is the crux of it, when you come from an abundant mindset,
Mm.
there's no limit to the pie.
Mm. Mm.
There's no limit to the pie. No one can take anything away from you.
Mhm.
Abundance is unlimited.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is really the message that I want to get out to entrepreneurs, that they can have a fun, inspirational, flowing, great business. It doesn't mean you're not going to have your challenges, because
Right.
challenges do come
Right.
up, and that's how we do grow.
Yes.
But when you can laugh going through
Yes.
those challenges, makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I wrote a few questions here that you inspired that we'll get to here in a second, but it's interesting when you talk about that. So let's take money, for example. And I want to, you just went on about a 5-minute diatribe about mindset and why it's important. And I want to dig into that a little bit
When I
because
get going,
no,
I get going. So
I love it. I mean, that's I want to dig in a little bit more because I want the listeners to make sure that they're getting the value of some of those little diamonds in the rough that you just kind of,
okay.
and we're all that way, right? When we talk about what we're passionate about, when we talk about what we love and kind of why we exist, we just go. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's easy for us to just pass by those diamonds, what I like to call diamonds in the rough. And there were a few
Yeah.
there. And I want to go back to money. And the reason I want to go back to money is not for money's sake. I want to go back to money because I do agree with you. I think I think for the majority of people, especially in more modern cultures, money has become the god, whether people want to say it or not. It just has.
Hmm.
I say it all the time. I called the electric company once and asked if they would take thank you as currency, and they said no. It's got to be money, right? And in the modern world, the reason that is, I think the reason it's impacted people so greatly is because we've put ourselves in positions where we have this limited mindset of money. I think the majority of people really do. Yet we're expending money more than we've ever spent before. I mean, things cost
Hmm.
more. The debt to income ratio is way higher than it's ever been. Those are clues, right? Because what we also know is when you call it an abundance mindset, I'm going to go the opposite and say that many people have a poverty mindset. And what you get with a poverty mindset is stress, spending money on things that maybe you don't have the money to spend. It's just money has become the god. When you talk about an abundant mindset, money exists in incredible amounts, maybe countless amounts. But the interesting thing is, when you come from an abundant mindset, you don't measure your joy on the money in your bank account. And you alluded to that a little bit when you said laughter and fun. And I like to tell myself and others constantly, there are millions of forms of currency in the world. Money is just one of them. So I'm saying all that to say, and then I'm going to let you get back to it, because here's where I'm going with this. For many of us, and I'm including myself in this, because the mindset you brought up is exactly the mindset that so many people grew up with. Money doesn't grow on trees. A favorite saying, not favorite in a good way, favorite because I had to overcome it, what I learned from my parents, great people, by the way. Well, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. And I use that on my kids, and I've gone back to my kids and apologized for it, because that is a lack. That is a poverty mindset. Well, I'll make it work. I'll go sell something. I'll go do what I have to do, whatever we have to do. And when you, and I want to tie it in with this, because I really want to hear your thoughts. I want the listener to hear your thoughts. When you tie those teachings in with religion, it becomes a deeply embedded, for many, a non-overcomable in their minds, because now you've taken that lack mindset and tied it in with their deity. And that's why I say that has become the God. Things I learned at an early age in church were money is the root of all evil. I remember hearing people say, well, that wealthy person has a lot of money. They must have done something wrong. And the reason I'm bringing all that up is I have experienced it personally. And I know many people who have experienced it, that programming that you're calling it has such power. And if we don't become cognizant of it, it becomes the threshold that we can't cross, that is keeping us from the abundant, successful, enjoyable life. So here's my question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What in the world does someone do about that? Like, I really would love for you to get into a few specific ideas. I know
Sure.
there are people that are struck, their parents taught it to them, their religion taught it to them, and they still hear those messages when they go to church, when they deal with certain family members, their friend circle. And brother, that takes a lot of courage and work for you to almost renounce some of that. So what does someone do to really work through those things? You alluded to a few of them, but to pinpoint some of those steps, I think would be really powerful.
Sure. Absolutely. So this is fantastic. It's very powerful, like you're saying, and you've mentioned a number of things that are significant. The simple answer,
Right.
simple answer is focus on what you want, not focus on what you think
Mm.
your reality is. So what happens is this, is that, so as someone seeing that they don't have enough money for their bills, for instance, and they're looking at that, and I can't take that away from anybody. So I can't tell somebody, hey, don't worry about it, but the thing is this, if, and it's about stories. It's amazing
Yes,
how people
yes.
talk about their stories and repeat and say, listen, I never have enough money. I never have enough money at the end of the month. And again, what that is doing is taking focus and putting focus on what you don't have, or what the reality appears to be in front of you right now. Now, every time, this is the interesting part as well, is that every time you do think about what you don't have enough of, for instance, so we're talking about money now, every time you at the same time, you think about what you actually do want.
Yes. Yes.
You're actually creating the opposite of it as well. So essentially, if I were to use, let me use the term cloud, essentially all those things that you do want are in this cloud over here. But you keep looking at your reality over here, what you think is your reality. But everything you want is over here. It is there, but you need to tap into that. You need to tap into that. And this is where we start to learn to change some of the programs that we have running. And when I say tap into that, and again, I think we can go here with this, is it's at an energetic level. Yes. So this is why, for instance, meditation comes into it, is very powerful, because you are tapping into your source. Now, people will call it source, people will call it God, people will call it the divine, people will call it Allah. You can call it whatever you'd like. Yes. It doesn't matter. The name doesn't matter.
Right.
Because, when I mention God to some people, that can actually switch them off, because of their perception of how they've learned what they think that God is.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to money as well, like you said, there's a lot of things. So, you mentioned the root of all evil. What a lot of people don't realize is the actual sentence is, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. Not money is the root of all evil, but the love of money. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't love money. And I think it would be crazy to say, when someone says, money's not important. So what am I sending out energetically? What am I sending out to the universe? I think it's not important. The universe goes, because you get exactly what you want. This is what a lot of people don't realize. You get exactly what you want. So you're sending out money's not important. Well, money's not important. Then you get back, money's not important. So you're not really going to have much money showing up. I mean, how long can you say to your wife, you're not important, until she decides, well, I'm not important. Well, I guess you don't want me in your life.
Right.
Same thing, really and truly. It's the same thing. Now, when people get lost in focusing on what appears to be their reality, and I get it, it's a challenge because you're actually looking at it, but you keep on looking at that. This is why we have to really, when I was talking about the action part, and we're taught to take action, take action, take action, take action. And what I've come to learn over the years is that it's not about the action. It's really about the inspired action. Because there's a lot of people taking a lot of action, a lot of times being very busy doing nothing and getting nowhere. They're just going through everything. The days vary because there's no direction.
Yes.
Now there's no direction. So it's sort of like taking an Indian rubber ball in a room with 4 walls and throwing this ball, and it just goes from one wall to another. It careens from one wall, and it just goes all over the place. The same thing with a lot of people. They have no direction in the sense that, one day is a good day, the next day is not so good, next day is like this, and there's no focus on what they actually want to accomplish. So if you really want to improve your money situation, the first thing you want to say is, okay, so where is it you want to go? What is it you want to accomplish? And again, it's about looking at ourselves. Because if, people get stuck, like you said, in these programs where, they just so far, and this is why the awareness is so important, because so far they are stuck in the paradigm that they have no belief that there's a possibility that they could earn a lot of money.
Yes. Yes.
So It
Yes.
comes right back to there, because if you have no belief that you have a possibility of going from, I don't know, from X amount of money to X times 2,
Right.
then there is no way you can move towards it. Now, when we can start to create that possibility for them, because we start to show them, where their limiting beliefs are coming from, because it's about changing those programs. And the only way for us to go to change those programs is to get into the unconscious mind,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's where the program is running. So I
Yes.
like to give the analogy, if you have a brilliant piano player who's playing, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, Tchaikovsky or any really difficult piano piece, and they're a concert pianist, and they can play this piece by heart, no problem. But if the piano is not tuned on the inside, they can be hitting all the right keys,
Yeah.
but the sound that's going to come out is not going to be the result he wants or she wants, because they're not tuning the inside. And this is where we have to go and tune the inside. And the ways to do that, there are audio programs nowadays. There's hypnosis as well these days. There's, and it's, again, it's not rocket science. I mean, you can go on you can go on YouTube and you can find a ton of programs, and be mindful of what you're looking for in that. I like to leave stuff running during the night while I'm sleeping, and just unconscious while I'm working. I can put headphones on while I'm working and have stuff that is affecting my brain and heart coherency so that they become aligned. So there's all kinds of stuff that people can do. One of the easiest ways for someone to change their, I'd like to call it frequency.
Yes.
And let me explain this very quickly as well. And so we can make it as simple as possible for listeners. The fact is this, is that you are vibrating at a frequency. Everybody is. And you tap into that frequency. Everything has a frequency. The computer in front of you, even the table in front of you, even though it looks solid, it has a frequency. It's not actually solid. When we look at it under a microscope, it's not solid. So we're tapping into frequencies. So if I tap into a certain frequency on the radio, I can't listen to music of another frequency. It's impossible, because I'm tapped into whatever it is, 88.7. If I'm on 88.7, I can't listen to what's going on 89.7.
Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
Now, as people, so with these programs running, they tap into, I can't be rich and spiritual FM. And we'll touch on that as well.
Yeah.
My life is horrible FM.
Right.
I never have enough money FM.
Right.
My life is crap FM. Whatever, all the complain FM.
Yeah.
It's everybody else's fault FM.
Yeah.
You always have a choice of what you want to tune into. Now it's practice like anything else.
Yes.
Practice. Every single day you practice to tap into frequencies of abundance FM, of I have a really good life FM. Look how far forward I've moved FM in the last year. Look how, look how many opportunities I still have FM. And look, and tapping into these frequencies. Because essentially what happens in your life, the circumstances, the people, the situations that happen in your life can only be aligned with the frequency that you are tapped into.
Yes.
So if you're tapped into complain FM, and you might know someone who complains all the time, notice how they get rid of one piece of trouble, and then all of a sudden another one comes in, another one shows up, because that's the frequency that they are vibrating at.
Right.
So in a nutshell, if you start to change your frequency and you start to move up to, courage. We were talking about courage before we got on. Courage is one of the first steps to what we call positivity.
Yes.
One of the, it's sort of like the baseline. Once you get to courage, and then you can start to move up to hope, and you can start, and you start to move up, and you can get to joy, you can get to love, and all, and and you can move up. And as you start to move your frequency up, again, the situations, the circumstances, the people you run into are going to be those people who are aligned with that frequency. So now, all of a sudden, your life just changes because, trustworthy people start showing up in your life. Loving people start showing up in your life. You bump into the right person who leads you to this person who leads you to this opportunity.
Yes.
You could look back. Most people can look back on their life and can go, oh, good thing that happened when that happened, because that led me to this, which led me to this, that's the divine working.
Right.
You just have to decide what you want.
Yeah.
Once you decide what you want, the how that's going to happen, it starts to get put into place.
Yeah.
It starts to get put into place. I mean, I'm talking to you halfway across the world.
Right.
Right? How did I come across you? I mean, who knows why and how, and it just, it aligns.
Yes.
So these, and, just to tap into this is really interesting because people create their, what I call complex equivalency. So A equals B.
Mm-hmm.
So someone rich equals someone that's not spiritual. And someone spiritual equals someone who's not rich.
Right.
But those are just perceptions. Those are just beliefs that people have been conveyed.
Yes.
Is money not spiritual? Because spiritual is money money is anything material.
It's neutral.
It can also be conveyed as spiritual. And I'll tell you why.
Yes.
Because what's spiritual? Because it was created from the mind.
Yes.
It was created from the mind, which essentially is creating from like connecting with your source.
Yes.
So it's not just because someone has a lot of money doesn't mean they can't be spiritual as well.
Yes.
I would ask the question, why do you want a lot of money? And maybe it's because, because with a lot of money, essentially people don't want money.
Right.
It's not money people want. When I really sit down with an entrepreneur and ask them, okay, so you want to earn this much. Why do you want to earn this much? Well, because I want to be able to do certain things and have certain choices.
They want opportunity.
They want freedom.
Yes.
They want freedom. That's what they want, is freedom.
Yeah.
Now you can have freedom immediately.
Right.
In your mind.
Right.
You can be free this moment. Right now.
So I want to share a story that literally happened to me yesterday because it paints the picture and that's why I enjoy talking about money, because it's something tangible that people can listen to this and go, oh, I've felt that before. Yeah. And so I want to come back and use money as a symbol in a minute, because really the principles that you're presenting are universal. It's not just about money. We're just using money as a tangible evidence of how mindset is powerful and how spirituality is powerful and alignment and energy frequency. So yesterday, I'm in a co-working building and there's a coffee shop downstairs. And I try and frequent the shops downstairs because I want to support the building I'm in.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, talking about energy and frequency, probably a few weeks ago, a month ago, I went down to said coffee shop, and the owner's a really nice guy. I've kind of befriended him a little bit, but when you begin talking to him, hey, have you guys picked up in traffic? It's just every response is so negative. It's blaming other people. It's, when is the governor going to lift all of the regulations? When are we going to be able to do this? I had to shut down my other store. So yesterday I went in there. Hey man, how's it going? You picking up? Yeah, we're picking up a little bit. Business is kind of back to normal, but I'm so tired. It was just kind of a glimpse of positivity, but then total negativity. And here's where I'm going with the story. As he's handing me my cup of coffee, there was something that rose up within me that was like, I really don't want to buy coffee here anymore. Because of that energetic connection, that frequency of, look, man, I want to support you because we're in the same building, but I don't want to support you because this frequency, and some people are like, well, it's just a cup of coffee, but no, that's the point. It's not just money. It's not just business. It's not just a cup of coffee. And really, that's a glimpse of the awareness that you're identifying. Because if we're constantly on a growth mindset of evolving and maturing and learning and living at a higher frequency, then we have to begin disaligning with the voices that might feed the confusion. And so let's ask this question. I'm trying to put my shoes and myself in the listener's shoes for a second. Let's say that a listener has an issue, immediate family member, business partner, internal issues. And while they're trying to find this growth mindset, they're trying to learn the principles you're teaching, how do they begin replacing these negative voices in relationships that might not be so easy to navigate? Business partner, life partner, immediate friend circle that they've had for 20 years. What does that person do when it's like, okay, I can't be around these ones. I can't buy coffee from those people anymore, right? I need to move on and buy coffee somewhere else. How do they navigate that? What are a few tips that you could give them just to get started?
Okay, so really interesting. So again, it's really all about perceptions.
Mm.
So, I think a really interesting way of doing things is this. I think it was Stephen Covey who had said that seek to understand so that you can be understood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of and you said it yourself as well. So you're as you're speaking, you're attempting to put yourself in the listener's shoes, right? So it's really putting yourself in second person perspective.
Yes.
I call it, so that because a lot of people will automatically, even when it comes to relationships, for instance, that work a lot of times are constantly looking from first person perspective. So they're just looking from their perspective.
Yeah.
And they're not seeking to understand the other person to understand their perspective as well. And I think that is a very important, even when it comes to business. So even when we're dealing with clients, when we're dealing with business partners, to understand other people. And again, it's only about perspectives. And again, the perspectives are affected by their beliefs. And sometimes we just need to offer a different perspective for someone. And sometimes we need to be willing to look at a different perspective, because sometimes we can have our aha moments as well. Yes. Right. And go, oh, wow. I mean, I can understand that. So the coffee guy, the owner, and that, okay. So obviously he's been hurt business wise. He feels like, possibly he's been dealt a difficult hand, or whatever you like to call it. And he might have that. So, the way I would look at it as well, Mitch, would be, so what can I do to potentially raise that vibration? And this is a big challenge for many people, because the best way for me to ever potentially raise someone's vibration is to keep my vibration high.
Yes.
Is to keep my vibration high. And essentially, and this even relationships. So, in relationships, it happens too. So because we see our partner sad, all of a sudden we feel this need that we need to be sad.
And we call it empathy, right? But that's not empathy.
No, it's you can be compassionate with the other person, but but again, we've been fooled. Let me explain this. We've been fooled because we've been programmed when it comes to relationships, for instance. If we listen to the love songs, if we listen to we read the cards, and how we always hear how, we're telling our partner how you complete me, and, I can never live without you, and all of these things, which are wonderfully said. But they're, again, you've been fooled, you've been programmed, because nobody is going to make you happy.
Right.
And you are not going to make anybody happy.
Right.
That is their decision. Yes, you can compliment each other. They might do things that, you like, and it's sort of like, you enjoy that. But ultimately, it's your decision
Yes.
to be happy or not.
Yes.
And yes, we have our up days and down days. It happens. We are human.
Mhm.
We are human. So, but I think what as you go along and you learn more, I think what is essential is that when we do have, I can talk about myself and what's significantly different. Do I have a day where, potentially is a low day, or do I ever get angry? Yeah, absolutely. The thing that's different now is it's so brief. I catch myself now and I go, okay, what have I, first of all, what have I done to create this? Because no one's done anything to me. It's just my reaction. It's my interpretation. It's my perception. Okay, so what have I done to create this? How can I elevate this? How can I change this? How can I react differently?
Yes.
And yes, sometimes and the interesting thing is this is as we do raise our vibration, we go in and out, but
Right.
if as you practice, you keep it elevated as much as possible. Again, the people, the circumstances, the situations, they will start to disappear on their own. So if you were to look at, I don't know, if you were to look at the friends you have now and the friends you had 10 years ago, probably there's quite a few of them that disappeared for whatever reasons. And a lot of times it's just because these frequencies has varied. This is why relationships as well can change.
Yes.
Because they do vary. But again, we get taught that, and again, it can happen. Don't get me wrong, it can happen. But we get taught it needs to be forever, for the most part, at least in my part of the world.
Right.
It's till death does its part. Right. The thing is this, though, that sometimes things do change.
Yeah.
And when we can come to understand that, yeah, they do change, and no one needs to be right and wrong.
Yes. Yes.
That's interesting as well. Because when we go to the right and wrong, now we're going, I'm better than you are. And this is one of the, I forget who it was. I think it was, I don't know if it was Neil Donald Walsh that had mentioned it in one of his books, but the word best, if we could eliminate best for the most part. So, I have the best religion. I have, I live in the best country. These are the best government. We are the best, whatever. If we were to eliminate that and change it to, potentially, it's different.
Yes.
And my religion is different than your religion, for instance. So what? Yours works for you. Mine works for me. And so be it. And we can enjoy each other's company at the same time and be compassionate and actually enjoy a good conversation where even though we see things differently, we can enjoy that conversation and say, listen, you know what, that's a really interesting perspective. I don't agree totally, but it's interesting to know that perspective. Right. So, and as we do this, and yes, we can change. We can say, you know what, for me, it's really important, like, in a coffee shop or something like that. To me, it is about that. It is about that experience and respect. You can potentially, again, for yourself, say, you know what, let me see how I can maybe reframe a few things. Because today you might say something. So he might be saying, because, I had, whatever. And you can say, you know what, we're here today. You got customers walking in today, treat them well and they'll come back.
Yeah.
And now they'll start to come in so that we can maybe have a little effect on his, and maybe he's just looking for that bit of compassion. That's how some people get their attention too. They're just looking for that little bit of, they play the victim a bit, which is very easy to do. Another thing that, and that's how they get their attention. You give them that bit of attention, say, you know what, hey, you know what? I mean, I'm here, I'm buying my coffee, you know what? And you've got several people walking in. This is great. I'm sure this is going to turn around, and they could potentially be having a low day too, right?
Right.
Everyone has their off days. Everyone has their, but the people you surround yourself, without a doubt, can have a tremendous effect on your outcomes. I mean, because if you're hanging around people who have no ambition, who have no desire to, elevate that vibration, if you want to call that, then the chances are you're going to, you're going to keep yours down. I mean, statistics show, I think when two people are walking, I had read this a long time ago, two people are walking and one walks slower than the other, it's generally the one that's walking faster that slows down to the other. It's not the person who's going slow that picks up their pace.
Yeah.
It's usually the person who's walking faster who slows down to the other person's pace.
Right.
And that can potentially happen sometimes with the people that we're surrounding ourselves around.
So let's kind of start wrapping things up. I love it, man. We could go on for 2 or 3 hours, I think.
Oh yeah.
So I want to begin tying everything together. We opened the show with, what does mindset mean? And you so eloquently shared, the power of mindset, the power of thought. Thoughts lead to emotion, and emotion leads to really how we live, move, and have our being. I mean, we all respond and we all see things and we react, and that's just kind of all of that tied into our life. And so to kind of bring everything together, how would someone, if someone's listening, and whether they're on the path to growth or they're just listening to all this and kind of going, wow, I really want to start trying that. I love the power of reflection. And you actually mentioned that quite a bit, was reflecting and having that self-awareness. And, when I work with business leaders, if they're having a high turnover problem, the first thing I tell them is you have to look in the mirror. People are leaving you because of you. And most often that's the last place they look. And we all do it, right? Like, we have an issue with a friend, or we have a challenge in life, and we kind of naturally respond or react with, well, it's someone else's fault, in more or less words. Yeah. But that real power comes in looking in the mirror and really spending time with self. And that's also, we've talked a lot about courage, because that does take a lot of courage. So what are some baby steps that you could give someone that's maybe ready to reflect and kind of grow their self-awareness? They're ready to take responsibility for where they are in life. Sure, things have happened to them, but it's not anyone else's fault but mine that I am where I am. What are some baby steps you could give to that person that's listening, that's ready to say, okay, I want to look in the mirror, I want to do some reflection, I want to learn how to build that foundation of courage? Give us two or three just small things they could begin practicing in life.
Sure. The first thing is what you said is spot on, and I think this is really essential. For anybody who wants to move towards, let's say, being successful, and successful is defined differently for different people, without a doubt, but is they need to decide what they want.
Yes.
Okay. So rather than just going through life, they need to decide what they want in the various different areas of their life. So whether it is in their relationships, whether it is in their wealth and their career, whether it's in their spirituality, whether it's in their health, right? And in their personal development. As someone's listening to this, they're actually, delving into their personal development. So looking at these different areas, and these are 5 essential areas that I just mentioned, and they're core areas, and deciding what they want in those different areas. I think that's really important. The next part that's really important is they need to be honest with themselves. It's okay. The beautiful part of all of this is that you and whoever is listening, you are exactly where you are meant to be right now. In the bigger scheme of things, you are exactly where you're meant to be right now, even though it may appear that, why am I in this situation? I've been in very difficult situations as well, challenging situations where I'm going, and thankfully I had my mindset to say, okay, because I have been practicing to get myself out of those situations. So it's okay. Wherever you are, it's okay. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay. If it was a friend you were helping out, you would be gentle with them. Right. You would probably be telling them, listen, it's okay. You're going to get through this. You can be gentle with yourself. Sometimes we're very hard on ourselves. At the same time, it's very important for you to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be willing to look at it. You need to be willing to look at the situation and say, okay, this really needs to change. I'm really not happy with this. This was a big challenge for me many years ago. And good thing I had a mentor who said, listen, Ken, you really need to be looking at this, because ultimately I was basically candy coating a pile of manure.
Right.
Which a lot of people do.
Yes.
They have
yes.
a pile of manure in front of them, but they candy coat it. And they think they have a pile of candy in front of them, but they don't. Ultimately, they have a pile of manure in front of you. And you need to start shoveling that manure away. But you need to be honest with yourself to be able to do that. And then you decide, okay, what is it going to take for me to start moving forward? And you start making steps. Now, one of the first things that I'm going to tell people to do, and it's very simple, to start to, let's say, elevate that vibration, is start with gratitude.
Yes. Yes.
Start with gratitude, with appreciation. You know, I had a client the other day. I asked him, I said, listen, what could you be appreciative of? What could you be grateful for? And it was really interesting because he could only come up with, he said sort of something to the effect of, well, I'm grateful for my wife and I'm grateful for my child. And stop there. There's nothing else. And it's amazing how many things we people can tend to take for granted. You potentially have a roof over your head. You potentially have, you know, food in the fridge. You have water. You have running water. You have a bathroom to go to. You have a job. You earn a certain amount of money. You have, you know, there's just a ton of things. You have a bed to sleep in. You have a pillow to lie on. There's all kinds of things to be grateful for. And I really suggest people start with this first thing in the morning, even before you've actually risen out of bed. So that you're still in this sort of like bit of an altered state. So you're between waking up and you're not quite woken up yet. Just decide, okay, what could I be grateful? Thankful for that night's sleep. You know, thankful, like I said, for my pillow, whatever it is.
Right.
You know, and thankful for and thankful for the day that's coming forward. This is going to be, and start to create the intentions for the rest of the day, and say this is going to be a really good day. I'm going to enjoy meeting people. I'm going to enjoy my job. Because again, what are people looking at a lot of times? They're so focused on the things that they don't like, they create more of them. Yes. So if we can start, if you start the day off with appreciation, it's very simple. It's not difficult. And you create a habit of that every day, you are literally setting the tone for the day, because you are telling the universe that you are grateful. And that means the universe is going to reply to you with more things to be grateful for. So this is a really simple step that one can take to start. And that gratefulness, believe it or not, and that thankfulness is a stepping stone to that alignment that we talked about.
Yes. Yes.
That alignment. Again, alignment, funnily enough, alignment is another pillar of my ARC method, of the 5 pillars. Yeah. And it's right in the middle. It connects everything. And when you align with the gratitude, you are aligning with your true self, ultimately, and who you really are. You know, that cloud I mentioned where everything you want is, when you start to be grateful, you start to bring that cloud closer to you. Right. With all those things that you want. Right. You don't even have to go to it, because it starts to come to you.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that is one of the easiest ways for someone to get started.
Yeah. Ken, I love it, man. This has been amazing. Amazing. So thank you for coming on the show and for sharing your expertise and your wisdom. Are you currently accepting clients?
I am accepting clients. I actually do group consulting. Okay. It's all done online, so you can be anywhere in the world. You know, listeners might not know, but I am in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea.
Right.
Very tiny island called Malta. And I do group consulting. Everything's done all online. I think one of the easiest ways, and it is specifically for entrepreneurs, especially frustrated entrepreneurs who, I help frustrated entrepreneurs to adapt and pivot their business. You know, and using my proprietary ARC method that I mentioned, I allow them to actually have more time freedom guaranteed. because from my experience, I've noticed that there's so many entrepreneurs that are going. They never have time for anything but their business. And this starts to become to the detriment of their relationships, of their health, of all of these things, and even to their business.
Yes.
And they need to learn, they need to learn certain, and I take people through a whole process. It's actually a 1-year program.
Wow.
I take people through. I think the first step that anybody wants to do, if they're really interested, I have a free masterclass they can go to.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about the 3 top reasons that are preventing you from actually adapting and pivoting right now. And they can go there. They just have to go to adaptandpivotnow.com, and they can opt in there. It's free, like I said. And then if they like what they see, they have where to get in touch with me so that we can set up just a call if they're interested. Again, it's not a sales pitch. I'm not interested in giving anybody a sales pitch. Right. We just see if there's a match, and if you want to take it further. But actually, that call, I will determine for you some significant stuff for you, whether you decide to come in the program or not. It's a call where I'll determine what's actually stopping you from moving forward during that call. And then from there, if someone's really interested, we can take it from there, and they can decide whether they want to come into the 1-year program.
Awesome.
Which I'm doing for, like I said, specifically for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, great. We'll put that in the show notes as well, so people can have access to that. So great. Ken, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been amazing. So brothers and sisters, if you are an entrepreneur specifically and looking for some support and coaching, please go check out Ken's website. And again, that'll be in the show notes, and you can look at his free masterclass. And there's some great stuff there for sure. So go check that out at minimum. And then if you feel like Ken's work is the approach and partnership that you need, then please contact him. So make sure you subscribe to the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, The Mitch Gray Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where we do put our shows via video, and we have some other things coming soon to the YouTube channel that'll give you great value in expanding your leadership if you're in a leadership position. So make sure you decide what you want, be honest with yourself, and make a decision on what it's going to take to grow to the next level. I've never met a human, and I've dealt with a lot of them. I've never met a human that didn't want to grow and didn't want to evolve and become someone better per se than they are today. And so, and then start with gratitude. I love that. A practice, I've always focused on gratitude, but a new practice that I began recently was every night writing in a gratitude journal 10 things I'm grateful for every night. And I also do it throughout the day. So I love your idea about the morning. So that's, So start that, brothers and sisters. What are you grateful for? And it can be small, like a pillow or a cup of coffee. Or it can be big, like friendships and relationships and business opportunities. So awesome. Ken, thanks again. This has been wonderful.
My absolute pleasure.
Hang on the line. We'll finish up. Brothers and sisters, we hope you are well. If you need anything, please reach out to us. Ken's contact info will be in the show notes. You know where to find me on social media or my website. And please, we're here to support you. Yes, we are here to also grow our business. But more than anything, we're here to help better humanity. So if you need anything, please reach out. You've heard guest after guest come on my show and give their commitment to support anyone that needs support. And I only bring great people on the Mitch Gray Show. That's why we can give you that commitment. So have a great day, and make sure you subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.